I'm very much a person who's like, you know what, if you have a fetish, if you have a kink and it's not hurting anyone, like do it. But it's like when that becomes like what the left is about, like liberating all this stuff, it's just like, Jesus Christ, like it doesn't seem, it's not a project that is grounded in any sort of material reality. And
absolutely.
That's the big problem.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, they have consumer brain because it's just about everybody, not people getting what they need, but everybody getting what they want, which is just capitalist lib consumer brain shit. And it's like, if I have this niche deviant fetish, which, you know, everybody's deviant in some form or another. That's why we made these fucking made up norms and standards to sort of like.
Got some pushback on that. I think I'm usually pretty normal. Everyone else is pretty much a fucking sicko.
Yeah. Fucking sickos, yeah. Steelage is the gatekeeper of normality and stability. Yeah, these sickos, yeah, everybody's got the little sicko side and like, you know.
So I'm at Slaboid T.
All right, this is Shit Spouter 37.
This is Black.com pilled.
This is the Fed Post.
I was thinking on that topic we were just talking about earlier, how that's like one of the main issues as far as with the left. It's like not being able to gain any progress, not being able to build any material solidarity or anything, is that it is like now completely unrooted at any material base, like as kind of mirroring with neoliberalism, like in the later half of the 19th century to now, like it's become a project based solely on like ideological liberation rather than material liberation from like material, actual markable stuff like economic conditions and stuff. So there's no real benchmarks anymore. Like there's no real way to say like, no, we're not making progress because like there's still so many people that are living in poverty. You can be like, oh, well, we're like still shaping the conversation, like because it's just like this ideological shit that's intangible. Like it's like everyone's focused on trying to like somehow transcend like social cues and norms and like just natural like biases within human nature and just like the need to categorize things. And they're trying to like transcend that through diving deeper into it as if that's going to be the way to like get material transcendence from oppression rather than vice versa. And it's like obvious that that's the case. I feel like there needs to be some type of call to like getting back to a material, like some sort of markable with benchmarks and like knowing actually changing material circumstances and helping people's lives.
Well, it's a lot of navel gazing, and that's why the necrophilia thing or the cannibalism thing, like these niche things that pop up and like they get some audience with the left or some credence or whatever. It's like, oh, you're not just some random sicko. Like there's something to this, or something to like identify with. And then, you know, what happens, it ends up being one of the many things in your bio that you identify as. And then you're a consumer that way. And now there's, you know, a pod for the people like you. And there's, you know, products for and merch for people like you. So as all that navel gazing shit is just, you know, you open up a new market and there's more market share somewhere else now. That's all that is.
Yeah, and I think like Egg said earlier, you talked about like the idea of like emancipation, but like it's not this isn't leading to like a meaningful freedom. Like it's the opposite. Like it's a form of narcissism that is like a prison. It's a prison, and like
absolutely,
and like we have all been raised in this culture, and like, you know, as Bane would say, like we've been formed by it, you know, and like. And you know, formative political thinker in my lifetime. And
the scholar,
absolutely, man. He was the king of the Lumpen.
A year ago, 2 years ago, I was a Chomsky guy. Now I'm Bane all the way.
A Bane
is all cool.
Actually, Al Ghul is into some pretty fringe right ideas that I don't know if I'm ready for yet. But.
He's Marx, Bane is Lenin. You know, he applied it.
What the fuck? No, but just to say, like, like it is a prison, and speaking from personal experience and everything, like the more you ponder yourself and what you are, especially when you're isolated, right? Like I was thinking, I was driving I was driving today, and I like specifically like made a note on my phone, like over voice. I wasn't texting while driving, just, you know, and like just to like say, like I had the thought of like, you know, like in a vacuum, who and what you are isn't really all that important, right? And you can have the illusion of who and what you are like infinitely, right?
Absolutely.
Purely market-based, purely run by identity, right? Like Baudrillard referred to like the constant deluge of information as like the ecstasy of communication, and now there's almost an ecstasy of identity, right? Like,
yeah,
it's almost like it's very exciting. I remember when I was 23 and I was a graduate student studying poetry, and I got my first poem published in a literary journal. I remember the whole day I was just like riding the high of being like, wow, I'm a poet. I can say I'm a poet. And it was it was an ecstasy like no other. And you know, once I realized that stuff was kind of bullshit and gate kept by these terrible neoliberal achievement subjects, then I kind of was like, all right. But like it's very exciting to be like, wow, I'm this, I'm that, you know, especially if you don't have much philosophy, ideology, anything under your belt.
Yeah, I think Slav had talked about this, and I had talked about this on like the 4th episode where we were talking about identity and how this navel gazing, you know, like Slav said, it goes nowhere. Like you can do it infinitely, and then all this obsession with identity, it's kind of just absurd on its face, because if you really want to think about it philosophically, if you really want to take it to the end, you're going to hit the black hole. That's where you're going to end up. And that's the reality. Anybody who's really took some time to think about it, the only logical, you know, conclusion you're going to get if you're being real with it. And the thing about all this identity stuff on the left is like in these niche identities and these bios that are like, you know, 100 different descriptors or whatever, and all these flags or whatever. It's like, it reminds me of the kid in high school who like, you know, was going through a crazy phase, like the goth phase, and then all of a sudden months later they show up and they're like the rap phase, and then months later they're the other. And I've known people who like, you know, socially not well adjusted and just kind of isolated in their heads too much, and they're very obsessed with their identity, and it's kind of a painful thing that's very relatable. It's very, you know, everybody can empathize with that, because we all want to, you know, claim something, and or just, you know, have some way of molding this, you know, nebulous mass that we are mentally. Like we're not anything. Yeah. So
and it helps you feel like you kind of like get a sense of belonging from it too, or it's what people are kind of searching for out of it. And everyone's so alienated nowadays, that and so isolated, especially now with COVID and everything, you know, that's like it's like a deep longing or yearning to do that. You know, you can also see that in like all of philosophy since like the beginning of time, people wondering about the self and, you know, that type of thing. So it's very understandable,
absolutely,
you know, yearning and drive. But at the same time, you have to look at the functionality of what happens materially with that type of drive. And it's like Egg says in his article on Medium that small meditation on links between racism and class inequality. He talks about how it's used actually to create a barrier to solidarity. So when, you know, you keep trying to put yourself in these small identity categories, you keep trying to find the most niche, like small grid pattern area that you can fit yourself into on the big chart of all of identities, you know, it actually instead puts up walls between you and everyone else, rather than building that solidarity of understanding, oh, we're all just fractals of the same collective, you know, and we should actually embrace that. And instead, you know, it's kind of like that big focus in BLM and stuff on allyship versus solidarity.
Exactly. Right. Yeah, Egg, if you want to like just give like a background of what you've written around those topics.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, COH, that was a really good synopsis and reading of that for sure. I started writing on Medium a couple months ago. I was trying to aim to get like a piece out every 2 weeks. It ended up being like one a month. Yeah, I wrote about so I had a thread that went like it did some numbers.
You did numbers. Hey,
yeah, putting up numbers.
You prayed in the morning and you got numbers.
Any day I do numbers, like, man, that's a good day. Any day a friend does numbers, that's an even better day.
Hey.
I'm magnanimous like that.
Koofy.
I know.
Sorry.
So I wrote about the first one, the I wrote this on June 3rd. I wrote basically, a meditation on the links between racism and class inequality. And I kind of wrote about allyship, this notion that this kind of corporate response to like kind of a corporate restructuring of what solidarity sort of should be. Allyship, it takes its roots in like a palpable recognition of difference, right? It kind of says that one's experience is distinct from another's in terms of race, gender, or religious identity. So all you can really be is an ally, right? All you can really be is be a cheerleader, stand to the side, right. Say, oh, this isn't my place, but I'm here for this person. There was a video that went viral of a woman. She was pretty young, probably college aged. She was kind of like saying, she got on her microphone and she was like, all right, it was like in a lower income community that was doing some sort of protest, I guess. It was like right after George Floyd, I think. And she got on the megaphone.
I think I remember this.
She was like, all right, like all the white people, like this is not your place. Like listen. Like,
I remember.
Yeah. And like this middle-aged black guy to the side of her is like, no, like you're not splitting us up. Like we're here, like we're all here. And I was like, whoa, this is like watching real people who are affected and the people who've just come out of like, Oberlin Identity Politics University. Yeah. I remember watching that and I was like, wow, like all this stuff that I'm talking about with people online, all this stuff that I think like I'm right. Like it's terrible. Like allyship, of course it's divisive. Of course it's ineffective,
Yes, I remember seeing that video. I thought the same thing. I probably saw it on your page and like, yeah, that shit. Like, yeah, I mean, what other way? It's perfectly summing up what we've been talking about.
Well, I see that play out here too, like in Denver, just on a practical sense. Like, I'm involved sometimes in like food access programs and stuff, and I actually have been privy to like some conversations on people who are leading different companies doing that or different organizations. And there's like, if we live in Denver, we're pretty highly like white populated area. There's not a lot of diversity here. We have a pretty big like Latino population otherwise. But other than that, it's not like a huge melting pot here like New York or something is. And so I've run into like seeing some conversations where they're leaders of like food access, like nonprofits or whatever that are trying to go out and give people food, and they're saying like, well, we don't know if we should be doing this right now. Maybe we should take a step back and like let people who are people of color, in the area they might have organizations doing this as well. And it's like, it's not about taking us like, we need all the help we can get on that front. Like you don't need to take a step back and center someone. Like everyone just needs to work together on that. And like, it causes these barriers and like these strange like hesitations and pauses and stuff where it seems like it's just more of a gate or more of a blockade than anything.
Yeah, you're making people into different species, which ultimately culminates in what we saw in Chaz, where they were, putting people, they were actually doing segregation. Like this, we need a safe space for black people is over here and everybody else is over here and we need them divided. And it's like, wait, then you're pretty much doing what you're supposed to be against. You know what I mean? Like, are you for, a multicultural, coalition or nation? Or are you for that or are you not? Because it seems like you're not. And I think the more you talk to them, the ones who are far down it, they're not for. They'll tell you they're not. So, I mean, that allyship shit is really just like, halfway to that conclusion.
I've like, maybe it's kind of like a dumb, it's like a kind of a dumb half thought. And maybe I've kind of discussed it on the show a little bit, but whenever I hear this shit, I do just like have this little conspiratorial voice in the back of my head that like just keeps thinking that like part of this is like on some level, maybe there's some awareness somewhere that like climate catastrophe will happen. There will be a greater level of scarcity. There will be austerity. And like within the left, which I mean, just within the ruling order, like just like more and more like smaller and specific classes to just like raise up as like, Brahmin kind of thing. Like just
tribes.
This.
Yep.
Yeah, like raising these people up like black people are a sacred cow, and so like they won't die when the flood comes. And like I almost
COVID did it get them?
Right.
Remember, COVID's only getting the people, like the bad anti-mask protesters, and not BLM protesters. So like we're already kind of seeing that transition naturally.
Right.
Anyways, yeah, I don't know. I just that's my little conspiracy.
No, I get
brain
that.
take.
I get that. No, I think that's part of the whole thing is that, you know, once it really goes down, there's going to be a lot of tribal fighting. And, you know, this is just the precursor to that, where people are coalescing into their little tribes, and then we'll just have endless.
Yeah, picking teams.
Yeah,
And no,
side.
less even about that and more just specifically like normalizing the idea that like when there's absolute catastrophe, we've all been laying the groundwork together. Like we're all on the same page that we're going to triage who gets the resources very clearly on what we've been laying out. Right. So like just normalizing the idea that it's so far in against the direction of universalism, and just getting us all acclimated to the idea that like these very small classes of people will get the bag when people are falling off the cliff, you know, and like. So I don't know. I'm sure I sound like some like Wignat reactionary a little bit by just being like, you know, the people of color are gonna get the bag or something, but like not that like specific. Like it doesn't matter. You're gonna get the bag. they're gonna get what I want. They're gonna get what I want.
Don't worry about what they're doing, Slav. You focus on your own bag, bud. You focus on what you're doing.
Yeah, why are you pocket watching?
It's not for me. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
It's so far away from any notion of the greater good of like even, you know, under like within primitive communism, you know, it was like in times of feasts, like everybody had a seat at the table, right? And then when, you know, there were famines, everybody kind of starved, you know, everybody kind of chipped in. But now like those we're so far from any sort of like equitable like you know, dispersing of goods and resources that I like the comparison to like, you know, lifting up this impoverished community as like the sacred cow because they've been so poorly taken care of in the past. It almost seems like it's symbolic in the way that like all the rich liberals who are sort of doing the corporate training about, you know, regarding anti-racism, it almost seems like they're overcompensating for knowing that when the bridge falls apart, they're just gonna kind of, you know, coalesce into their rich white liberal hole and leave the poor whites, the poor blacks, the poor brown people to kind of starve. You know, it almost seems symbolic in the sense that it's not tethered to anything, right? There's sign and then there's signify, but it's totally split like that. It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's definitely all symbol. I mean, I think the small pushback I'll give on what Slav was saying, that I think the bag they'll get when the shit really hits the fan will be the equivalent of like you know, poor whites get 1 crumb and the poor blacks get 2 crumbs. So it will be a difference, and it will be.
I don't think anyone's getting crumbs.
No. Well, it's all relative, but I'm just saying that like the difference of like what they'll get as being held as like sacred or elevated or prioritized it won't be much. You know what I mean? It'll be a marginal. That's how they've always done. That's how they pitted people against each other.
It's all just lip service, though.
Yeah, we'll give you 1 crumb. We'll give this guy, this Chinese worker, you know, half a crumb, and now we'll pit you 2 against each other. But it's like, you know what I mean? It's still crumbs.
Specifically, how like how I imagine this theory is basically that like we will never get a social democracy in this country, like never get that robust response. But this is kind of like the nail in the coffin almost. Things will totally hit the fan, and there will be like a couple very, very small, but like statistically acceptable for capital groups of people that can basically get the full experience of like, no, you have a welfare state totally helping you through this crisis so that it can buy legitimacy for the state.
Right. Gotcha. PR,
yeah, like
PR.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, like there was Medicare for all, and then there will be social democracy for some, you know, and like, and you can basically have like really small populations that like actually do get like the full treatment, right? And it's not just crumbs. They actually get it good so that like you can get a lot of good footage of it, and like you can justify it to the poor people because there's an ideological case that totally justifies it. And
maybe. I mean, I could imagine that. I mean, I don't think it'll be like Wakanda. I don't think it'll be like, you know, people living like royalty and like everybody else is like dying. I don't think.
No, it'll just be a welfare. It'll just be a welfare.
I don't see them like really going into that much like effort to even try to do.
They don't even have to. They don't even have to. They don't even have to do all that. Like they're getting by the way it is. But I mean, yeah. I think.
Well, they gotta keep the people that, you know, wait their servers, or I mean, wait their servers. Jesus Christ, wait their tables alive.
Yeah, I think a big way they get away with that, what you're talking about getting good PR, is they pick certain individuals and they get like high, you know, media profile spotlight on certain individuals. That's how they get away with it. Like, look at this one black kid we helped. You know, I don't think we're gonna help a whole group.
50 years later, we went and we found Corn Pop, and he's
right.
You know, he's got that EBT now.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. What do you guys think of the whole the thing I wanted to talk about was the BLM people going around to these restaurants and like yelling at people and asking them.
Saw that.
Yeah, they're yelling at them, and the one in upstate New York, Rochester, they're like breaking tables, like they're like fucking their shit up, like they're damaging the restaurant, like they're going after people, like they're looking for white people at restaurants, basically, essentially.
Saying how can you enjoy yourself when there's X happening, right?
Right. Yeah.
I'm going to be a little careful, like really feeding into that at all, because I do definitely think that's just like used as right-wing fodder just to like discredit any type of protest or social movement at all. But I will definitely say like that's definitely happening on some, you know, isolated occasions, and that's definitely fucked up. But I don't think that that's like the nature of. I think that's representative of everything that's going on in these, and so for it, like it's just like a Andy No, Michael Tracy like clickbait thing for me.
Cherry picking, magnifying. That's true. They cherry pick and magnify, but I do think it's not.
Well, yeah, but we totally agree that that's like a fair like ideological representation of this fucking bullshit.
Exactly.
And like this is like Black Lives Matter is a community and collective of NGOs that are well represented by that demonstration. And so like, I mean,
sure, but like not all the protests that happen right now are being led by like BLM either. Like you're getting non-affiliated protests in different cities as well, like all over the country that aren't BLM driven. So you can't necessarily say that it stems from that same source. Like I don't.
Yeah, I mean, there's also like pro cop. There's also like pro cop rallies that are happening.
Well, sure.
Like,
but I mean, like there's also like anti-police violence protests that are been going on that are like funded not through BLM specifically, but like maybe the PSL is doing some and like that type of thing. Like, no, you know, I don't know. I get hesitant into like really trying to dig into criticizing protesters just because I know that it's just misguided limping most of the time. And then you have your PMC managers out there that are really like shots, like you're saying within BLM and stuff. I don't want to try to cast that whole protest and movement in that light, because like I don't think BLM as an organization or whatever has as big of a grasp or hold on like the social movement that's happening right now as people like to think. Either people on the right like to think, or us on the left criticizing it like to think.
I agree.
There is definitely presence of BLM, and it was started from like a call to protest from BLM or whatever. But like there are plenty of satellite protests happening that are not actually affiliated at all with BLM NGOs.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, so I try to, you know, tend away from getting too much into that. But
there's people who think that like everybody who's out there like burning a police station, like, you know, with nothing to lose, is somehow secretly somebody who works for like an NGO or something. Like there's this weird framing that goes on.
I don't think literally anyone thinks that. Like I've given this topic a lot of thought, and like I don't think that literally anyone is saying that or thinks that at all. I think
the only time we talk about it is to talk about these instances where like, oh, like people are like flipping over tables. Like that lends to the dialogue of like representing that as a whole.
I agree.
But it's an ideological critique Right. And
Right.
like, I mean, I think that's completely valid. And it's like, it's an ideological critique of the ideology that like we're bitching about all the fucking time on this show. Like, I don't understand.
Exactly. No, I agree that we can't let their co-optation represent the entire mass of people who are upset and angry right now. That's bullshit. I don't agree with that at all. I totally take that point, COH. But again, yeah, what Slav's saying, like, this is ideologically consistent with what the rad lib left want. That's completely in line with what they want. And whether it's a real grievance or not, this is how it's going to be directed, is this way, towards bullshit, towards stupid, nonsensical bullshit. And that's how, I mean, whether these things are cherry picked and, you know, magnified and overrepresented, I don't know. You're probably right. Either way, it is representative of the way
it's a logical conclusion of that line of thinking.
Exactly.
I think that's why it has a lot to do with the allyship shit, because like the demand of a lot of these situations, it seems, is like, we want you to raise your fist, we want you to show solidarity, and that as if that alone is somehow changing the world, and that's progress, and that these people are the people who are pulling the strings and a source of power, when they're clearly not. You know, it reminds me of when you guys remember when they used to run up on Mitch McConnell and these Congress people at their dinners. This was happening like a couple years ago for like the kids in cages or whatever about the demand or whatever. At least they're going at people with real power, right? And then there's people behind them who have even more power that they should be going after, but they're going after them, whatever. This is like, I don't know.
It's just the guards. They're
It's like neoliberal version of that. They've like individualized it even further.
Exactly.
The thing is, yeah, you're just the magnification of the dinners and things like that. I do agree. I think it's more effective to I guess, well, you know, it's kind of interesting because the politicians and the cops are sort of in the similar level, right? Like they're not really the people who are controlling your lives, but they're like, they represent them, right? So, but it almost like, the problem is like when you see this stuff magnified, it's sort of, the real gets transformed into like the hyper real, right? It's almost like you see the direct, like the problem is like people don't, you know, like Jeff Bezos and Warren Buffett and those people who are really like the hoarders of capital, they're never the ones like in the thick of it, right? Like,
oh yeah,
you don't really see interactions with them. So when you see an interaction, like a hostile interaction between like, you know, protesters and Joe Biden, or protesters and the cops, like, you know, something could actually happen and it feels like you're watching TV and stuff. So there's this like catharsis lended to it. And then that in itself sort of gets turned into what people see as the real struggle. So that's why you have all these people coming out like who are actually upset, but they're targeting all their anger at the cops, right? Who are the guards. And so like, as long as that stuff keeps getting magnified, and as long as, you know, which is bound to, you're just always going to have people like you're always going to have groups fighting other groups, and they're never going to realize who is creating those groups. Right. So.
Right. Exactly.
It's frustrating to watch.
Exactly. They're dealing with the superficial symptoms as always. Right. And not dealing with, you know, the source of things. And, you know, oh, they're these white people and they're the reason why that guy got killed. And it's like you know, it's along the lines of people who think that every white person has white privilege, and like there's some board meeting that happens every month where all white people meet and they decide
card carrying white person.
Yeah, and they decide the you know, the order of the world, you know, and they, you know, I mean, like that's how people think of people think of everybody as monoliths. They think of black people as monoliths. They think of white people as monoliths. It's how everybody thinks about this shit, because they're you know, most people are stupid. I mean, that's just how it is. So it's like, you know, that's the furthest they can process this, is that, oh, these white people are complicit and aiding into what's going on with George Floyd and everything else. And if I can upset them or shake them up, then they'll go to the board meeting of white people and tell them to cut it out or something. I don't know.
Speak to the manager of white people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
That's idealism.
Yeah, I think that, I don't know. I mean, this is the same shit that's pushed. I mean, this is just this isn't even fringe shit. Like, this is just an honest arrival at like very fucking mainstream ideas that are pushed by like every fucking major institution. And yeah, like all of these people are just useful idiots that are doing this. And like I also do think it's funny, because I was talking to somebody about this earlier today. Like, I think that like I've spent time, and I arguably still spend time in this space, but like the role that like the irreverent online left plays in this news cycle with these kinds of issues is like you just jump in and, somebody posts like, oh, this very obviously universally unlikable thing of just like screaming at people going to brunch because they're white, right? Like, at least there's somebody on the left who's going and saying like, wow, man, like this is ridiculous. And like and that part right there is, and I'll say the dorky guy thing, like that is a part of the manufacturing of consent, because all you're doing is making fun of behavior that anyone with half a fucking brain who isn't addicted to ideology is gonna think that that's like repulsive behavior. And so you're the guys doing damage control to say like, oh, distancing myself from that. So you're buying credibility while not at all questioning the shit that made that a reality in the first place.
Yeah, all the
like this is the whole this is the whole fucking Chapo thing to begin with. It's like, hey, we're gonna make fun of the left and just the libs. We're gonna make fun of the libs, but then like fundamentally just agree on every single fucking meaningful thing at the end of the day. And it's like, motherfucker, like, what do you think is causing this stuff? Right?
Yeah, it is interesting that the rad libs were found it appalling and we're like, yo, this is stupid shit, because I thought they would just defend it. But I mean, that's what most people were saying was like, you're part of why this is happening. You're part of this push for this thinking that this is the solution. So I mean,
were the rad libs on the side of the diners? The people?
No, I saw a bunch of rad lib accounts that were just like, this is stupid. I mean, I can't believe people are doing this. This is a bad idea. And then people replies like, you caused this. Like you had a hand in causing this thinking. You know what I mean? Like, yeah.
Well, it just posits like problems, society's problems at like the level of the individual.
Exactly.
The type of consumption that you're engaging in, right? Like if you're going to a protest, that's a type of consumption, right? You're going to take pictures. You're going to put them on Instagram. If you're going to brunch, that's a different form of consumption, right?
Right. Exactly.
At the end of the day, it's like, is the type of consumption that you engage in, is it leading to anything meaningful? And unfortunately, probably not, right? So it has to be a virtuous form of consumption in order to, let you sleep easily at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like what their demand, that's the thing that always was on my mind, is like, what is your demand? That they put up a fist, that they wear a BLM shirt like these fucking NBA players with their BLM jerseys? What is your demand? That's your demand? Like, if that's your demand, you're a joke. You're a joke, because if that demand is met, nothing is going to change. They're going to kill another black person. The cops are going to kill another black person if you get that demand met. And, that's what boggles my mind, is like, how do you not know that? How do you not know that? And that's where, of course, you get conspiratorial, like, all right, this is some top-down psyop bullshit. Because
there's no Marxists in the universities anymore, right? Like they were scared out during during the Red Scare of like the 1950s, right? So like, yeah, that goes back to one of the things I was saying about how the university is just so good at producing these people who don't understand material reality, because you're just feeding them with tons of postmodernism, and the people who are like kind of like that girl Simone Norman I was talking to you guys about today earlier, or maybe just you.
Yeah.
It's just, you're just producing these people who are very, they're pretty sharp in terms of, they can regurgitate Marcuse or Foucault or maybe Roland Barthes, right? But like they haven't had to buy health insurance yet, right? They haven't, they weren't affected by 08 or or this recession, right? So it's like they're not going to be like, oh shit, maybe I should like adopt a politics that might not look good on paper, but one that might be able to help my parents not get evicted. You know what I'm saying? But like that's not really a reality for these people, and they're the tastemakers, right? They're the ones writing for Jacobin. They're the ones in these NGOs. So
that's what bothers me with like academics. It's like I don't know. They spend so much time trying to come up with like, it feels like just redundant ways of thinking, like, or like just like completely inconsequential answers to like why someone like I don't know. It's just like academics love to do all this esoteric bullshit that like normal people who are like living everyday life and material struggle understand that, and they're like, why? Yeah, I don't know what the fuck name this is that you're giving to it, like under Foucault, or like as you're like quoting him or whatever, but like I already understand that because this is just what I live on a day-to-day basis. And like you're just trying to come up with these high-minded ways to explain common fucking sense. It's like you try to like that when those people try to dialogue with normal people, it's like they try to treat normal people like they're stupid, when in reality, like people really, like just working class people, grasp most of these concepts already, and they contextualize them in their day-to-day life, and like
better than you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, better than you, like way better.
Exactly. Yeah. They're voting in their interest. That's why they're always like, oh, you're voting against their interests. It's like, nah, they're voting in their interests. Yo, people are voting in their interest. Like if they vote for Trump or whatever because of trade, because he's on trade or the war, like they're voting in their interest. Like you're the one who doesn't understand their interests. You know what I mean? And it's just
the pro-Biden people are not. If you're pro Biden, like I don't think there's really any working class people who are going to be pro Biden.
No.
If anything, you're going to not vote, or you're going to vote for Trump if you're working class, essentially.
Or you'll be guilted into it.
Yeah. Well, it's also like it's kind of a signaling thing, right? Like, it's kind of funny, again, talking about the sign and the signified. Like you have Trump stands in the eyes of like middle class PMC types, like Trump stands for all things evil. So Biden must stand for whatever's countering that, when in reality, that's not true at all. But so like a lot of people, they're only aligning with Biden because that's like, oh, that's the anti-racist thing to do. When in reality, it's probably more racist, I think, because Biden was the architect of all these bills, right? And Kamala Harris kept like 100 people in jail to use this cheap labor for like the state of California. It's like these people are the architects of power. Trump is just he's just a symptom of this terrible, disgusting, immoral economic
the Clintons had slaves. He passed the crime bill. He passed the crime bill. The Biden and all these Clinton motherfuckers, they're all part of this whole thing of the new Jim Crow that everybody on the left is upset about, right? However they frame it, whatever, we all know it's a problem, however you want to identify the source. And they've got slaves. She's admitting to having slaves at her mansion in her book. Like, oh yeah, well, I was nervous at first, but they did good work. So, I'm a good person because I trusted them. That's, they're the ones who are doing the shit you're upset about. So, you know what I mean? Like, but yeah, I want to talk about this credentialing shit because it really, this happened recently because this,
really quick, just because it's nagging me just before we change the topic.
Yeah.
I just want to make mention that just like Black Lives Matter as a movement has received like billions in the last couple of months, and like as an organization, as like a piece on the political chessboard. And so like I think just like if we're at all claiming to like value material analysis or something like that, like it's the role that BLM is playing is like very, 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 very fucking important. And like
absolutely
coming through this, like at the other end of the tunnel, like they're like a humongous cudgel of capital, of just funded by capital, and like that
absolutely
that will change the political landscape. And like I don't know, sorry, I just wanted to address that because like
you're right. No. I mean, NGOs are so good at sucking up resources because people like don't know what to do. They're like, a tweet goes viral. They're like, oh, donate to so-and-so. And it's just like, then everyone's going to do it. Like the Minnesota Freedom Fund or whatever.
Right.
Remember
Exactly. For nothing. 100,000 is for prison. Yeah.
Got millions of dollars. And it's like, I saw a criticism that like, oh, it was they only did X amount, with the money. But it's like, well, They probably didn't have the time to do it. But it's like, why are all you people okay with donating? Like the problem with NGOs is that like, it's not, public isn't consenting to what's happening to the money, right? It's like, it's not like getting taxes that do things. It's just like throwing money at something and being like, I want to make this problem go away,
Right. And like so those small there's those small donations, and then there's just literally fucking banks donating insane amounts of money. But those small donations, and I don't want to like get caught. I knew we were transitioning, but like those small donations, I mean, like who do you think they're fucking coming from? They're coming from upper middle class, and so like if we want to talk like the revolutionary potential of Black Lives Matter is like actually in these protests is like actually probably somewhat high. It's just like a revolutionary. It's like a revolution for the upper middle class, like the upper urban middle class, and like we should pray to fucking God that they aren't successful in their aims.
No, I mean I think COH. I take his point. And, you know, this is something we've all had our own disagreements about. But at the end of the day, you know, since this started, I said, you know, this George Floyd protest, I don't care how big it gets. I don't care how real it gets. The demands are fucked from the jump, and they're NGO crafted to an extent. Right. So it's like everything that this is going to end up being is going to be bullshit in the end. And it is it's become bullshit. It's obvious it's bullshit. Right. But that doesn't mean that nobody's out there who's seriously aggrieved and pissed off for a material reason.
Yeah, I mean, people that want to go out and like smash windows, like I see you, I hear you, you are seen. Like if we need to say that to qualify it.
No,
that's
I'm just saying, like people act like these NGOs made these people out of a cauldron, and that they showed up out of some black magic, and that's all it is. And I heard the same shit about the MAGA lockdown protests, that these people are all astroturf. There's nobody is out there with a real grievance. People have real grievances. You go out, you can tell the weather like outside, right? If it's raining outside, it's because there's rain falling, right? This economy is crazy. So people are out there for real reasons. You don't need to be a genius to know that. But who gets there first and guides it towards some bullshit is, you know, the id pol right or the id pol left. They're the ones who get there first. And these NGOs and the elite, they get there first and they guide it towards nonsense. And that's where it goes. But that doesn't mean there's nobody out there with a real fucking genuine concern. That's the thing that pisses me off, is like, I don't like this talk where it's like, you know, oh, nobody out there is a real person with real demands. There's all these crisis actors like smashing windows everywhere. That shit is bullshit to me. It's bullshit. Well,
at that point, that's just like a fringe conspiracy theory, because logistically that doesn't even make sense. I guess just like making this distinction I don't know. Sorry, I'm like raising my voice now. I feel like maybe I'm being overly aggressive, but like I feel like making that distinction just doesn't occur to me, because that's just how fucking crowds work. That's just how a crowd works. Like a crowd that gets whipped up by a leader. That's just how it always works. So I guess it just doesn't seem relevant for me to spend time making that distinction.
Yeah, but you agree that there's people who act like you know, there's no material drive of these people, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like from the person in like Minneapolis who was just there in a straight up riot that wasn't even a protest or anything like that, who's just like looting shit. I understand that for him, and I even understand that for like the white chick in fucking Capitol Hill who like really thinks she is upset for like intellectual reasons, but really she's just brainwashed. Like I believe people that like their emotions are genuine.
Oh no, I'm not. No, I'm not saying. This is two different things. I'm not saying that somebody's out there because they're just emotional. I'm saying like they're getting.
No. I'm saying even. Yeah.
Well, whatever. We can talk about this later. I mean, you know, we could debate this forever, but like, I guess we should move on to a different topic. The PMC credentialing thing, I feel like, is just what COH was talking about. Was like, it's just like this self-replicating thing where these people are the children of these elites, and they go to these Ivy League schools, and you have to pay top dollar tuition to get in, right? That's already a barrier to entry. You get in and you regurgitate all the talking points of these institutions, and then you graduate and you go to work for these institutions, and it's just a revolving door. And I think that's a big thing of this whole like appeal to like, oh, I've got 7 economic degrees, or I've got blah blah blah, whatever. I've done this, like all this credentialing shit, you know, is just the system regurgitating itself. It's just replicating itself, and I think that's a big problem. It's just lib brain, and you see it everywhere, and it manifests on the left as like, you know, read theory shit. But you know, I just don't get how people aren't aware of this. You see it in every industry pretty much. But yeah, I mean, that's why I never took that shit serious. I never took people who are like, oh, well, look at these plaques I've got, or these, you know, these framed diplomas, whatever. Like, I don't take that shit I take it with a couple grains of salt, basically.
Well, especially not some like economics degree from like neoliberal university. Like, I mean, like, dude, that to me, that just tells me that you're more deeply ingrained and enrooted in all this shit than anyone else. And like, unless you're really smart and you were going into it with like maybe like a revolutionary mindset already to like try to learn it from the inside out or some shit like that to know how to counter it, like then you're just like, it's just essentially like you went to like some type of brainwashing for more neoliberalism. Like if you look at like why neoliberalism spread out around the globe, it's because some people from the fucking Chicago school went down to like they sent people down to Chile, and they sent people like everywhere to work on foreign policy and economic policy for all these like developing nations, and they're all coming from American economics like universities with economics degrees. Like I like trying to tell me you have 7 economics degrees is not going to make me want to listen to you anymore. If anything, it's going to make me think that you're like just some fucking shill.
I have a PhD in critical race theory and gender theory, and white privilege by whatever that bitch's name, D'Angelo, whatever the fuck.
Robin D'Angelo.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kanye West critiqued all this stuff on the College Dropout. He took care of this stuff.
Real heads know.
one of his one of the interludes, he's like, well, if I have nothing else, my degrees keep me warm. And his mom was a professor, right? So he kind of knew all that was garbage. But it's really interesting. I know in my personal life, I know a PhD who went to a really good school in Washington D.C. and then a really good school for his PhD in Boston. I remember meeting him for the first time and finding out he was an economist, and talking to him. I was like, wow, there's so many problems facing us, blah, blah. And we talked about Marx, and he was like, oh yeah, I had a teacher in high school who was actually a Marxist. And I was like, so you didn't learn about Marx in your whole tutelage of PhD economics? And he was like, no. And then we were talking about philosophy, and he's like, well, people respond to incentives. And that was the most philosophy he could give me. And I was like, holy crap, these people it's literally just pure instrumental reason at this point.
It's just like indoctrination.
Yeah, exactly.
It's wild. It's really troubling. But the problem is that the universities, I think the reason why people think the universities and the press are so left leaning is because the right does a really good job at taking the veneer off, right? I think it was Chomsky who said that the left, it's more beneficial to have Obama types and Biden types running the show, because then the left is really in power, and it doesn't seem like you can kind of go any further, right? So people think that because the university, it's like opposing Trump isn't really a political ideology anymore, but because your professor said he was anti-Trump on day one, you're like, wow, they're fucking radical. And it's not radical at all to oppose Trump. You know what I mean?
Right. It's like the standard.
Yep.
That's like the de facto political position.
Right. It's what you have to be in civilized company.
Absolutely.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. To be fair, academia is left wing. It's just not the left wing that we like.
Definitely.
Right? Yes. It's liberal, or it's obfuscation left wing.
Have you guys ever met people from Oberlin that graduated Oberlin, or? Yeah. I knew one kid from there who was from my hometown. He went to Oberlin. It was just the most rad lib shit I've ever heard was going on at that school. You can't serve sushi in the cafeteria. That's appropriation. You can't that type of shit. Bleak.
Oh, yeah,
dude. I knew some people that went to Evergreen.
God.
Yeah. Yep. And man, dude, just some of the fucking. It's great, man. I mean, it's just awesome.
Premium content.
Yeah, I went to a cow pasture school in the South, so I
didn't. A lot of struggle sessions there.
Yeah. We actually had Jordan Peterson come to our campus. There was a very small group of people who picketed outside of it.
Well, that's why.
Wait, did that really happen?
Yeah.
Oh, that's wild.
That's what Egg said. The right won that because Shapiro got to do all these stupid SJW college campus crying compilations, because it was just an institution to replicate and indoctrinate these stupid, naive kids who don't, who just learned about institutional racism. They just found out a week ago because their dads are racist and vote Republican or whatever since Bush Republicans, and they're just finding out about this shit. So you know what I mean? So Ben Shapiro, it's light work. It's easy. You just go in there and you can easily make fun of these people or make them cry because they're, they haven't had an original thought in their lives.
When you're famous,
about anything.
When you're famous, they let you do anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, they'll cry about anything. Yeah, it's for me, another thing that really ticks me off about I don't know, I really love education, right? And learning and shit. I'm always reading and trying to teach myself, but there's something to be said for who grow up in a privileged home, or maybe not even privileged home, but they grow up all their through childhood not really having any responsibility of their own. They go off to school and they're really given these idealistic notions of how people act, how the world is, this, that, and the other. And they try to learn everything else and contextualize everything in their life through those lenses. and then they try to like make sense of just regular shit that's like even like common sense or instinctual or whatever under pretext of those lenses, and it doesn't really work for them half the time, so they start jumping through all these loops of like, well, actually, like, yeah, this actually means like this other thing is not true, but like it could be true in this scenario, like just shit that's like with postulates and theorems for shit that like, they try to go to school and learn all this complicated ways to understand just how normal people live their fucking lives, because they don't have to live a normal fucking life.
Exactly.
Like they don't have to
tower
make
shit
these decisions and stuff. Yeah, exactly. And it's just so frustrating because it's like, it's just like, I don't know. It just makes, it seems like it's just like a snake eating its tail. Like it just doesn't go anywhere.
Well, it's like it's the outcome of like these machines of educational institutions. You know what I mean? Like we should defund universities because like it's just awful. And like I mean it's not even, and I mean again like you know, off to talk about subject on the show here, but like it's not any one weird wacky college professor, right? Like it's the fucking machines that are these institutions that are just fucked, dude. They're just fucked. We gotta build a wall around these universities, around Ivy League schools, until we figure out what the hell's going on.
We need some autonomous universities.
Yeah, I've been in grad school. I've been around these kids that like, you know, teach for America and just, you know, in the lib pipeline. And like, you know, and they'll go on to work for whatever federal agency, whatever. Like these kids are hurt. They've never lived a regular day in their lives. You can tell just a second talking to them. They've never had any real experiences in their lives. They've never known any struggle, like material struggle. You know, everybody's got struggle, but they don't. You know what I mean? You can tell off rip that that's how they are. So it's like
the fact that you have to like get it, yeah. When you bring up like Teach for America, or like I was reading like Joe Kennedy III's like like his Wikipedia page, because I don't know, I'm very interested in creepy people, and I was looking at it and I was like, wow, he like it's listed on his Wikipedia page that he spent like 2 years in the Peace Corps and 1 year in like this and that. I'm just like, it's so I find it so weird when like upper middle class people have to like sort of buy and apply for these experiences. Like the average person just deals with like, you know, helping people and, you know, just seeing people in your community and giving like $1 to them whenever you have the opportunity. It's like the rich people have to buy that experience. It's so weird. It's so
modify that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Like I mean, some other thing to throw on their resume.
Yeah, it's vile. It's painful and it's vile. And the problem is that people have to see the rich as really just infected with this pathology, right? Like I think that too many you know, of the younger people kind of like give a break to the magnanimous wealthy, like how the Obamas are so revered. Like, you know, anybody who's part of the administrating class is just totally removed from the needs of the average person and needs to be regarded as class enemies. I don't know. Yeah,
these people, yeah, because like they're learning these things about the unemployment figures. They have a deferral and trust in authority that doesn't allow for any scrutiny. Where what if the authority you're deferring to for expertise, the experts, the adults in the room, what if they have benevolent intentions? You know, that isn't factored in at all. So when they're in these rooms and they're learning about the unemployment figures and the federal poverty line, and they don't know anything about poverty, or they don't have anybody in their family who's been unemployed, like through the crash or anything like that, they're getting it straight from the beast. And the beast tells you, you know, every couple of years they're adjusting these figures and these statistics to fit their spreadsheets and to fit their charts and make them look good for next quarter or for re-election. And you know, when you really dig into these metrics, they're bullshit. They're not tracking people who've given up on working after a certain amount of time. Gig economy, half jobs aren't counted into, they count as employment. You know, the federal poverty line is based on some shit where it's like, you know, a couple loaves of bread for a family of 3, like a food budget from the 50s, and they barely even adjust for inflation. Like, if you really dig into this shit, you'll find out it's fucking bullshit. But, you know, you don't need to dig into it if you lived it. If you lived it, you don't need to dig into it. You know it's bullshit. But that's the thing.
Well,
like,
they go to these... Go on, Sirke.
No, go ahead.
Well, they go to these schools and they give them like these like neoliberal toolbox of like bourgeois ideologies that they can use to explain everything that happens in the world. Well, then they come into the real world and they start seeing that there are all these fucking contradictions and all these things that their bourgeois ideologies just they can't understand them. And they like lose their fucking mind. That's why, TDS and like the terminal lib brain shit, like that's why libs seem so fucking clueless and lost right now, is like they have no framework for understanding the material reality of the conditions in front of us. And so they sit there and they just spin wheels in their fucking head and they regurgitate critical race theory or whatever the fuck it is. And they don't even look at they won't even look at contradictions. They can't even think about them as being a part of the inherent whole. They're just outliers completely to them.
Yeah, Brexit catches them on the back heel. Trump 2016 catches them on the back heel. And what's the explanation? Is that it's Russia or they're racist, right? That's it.
I don't.
Amazing.
I mean, I don't think that I literally just don't think that they're the metaphysics of identify. They don't do dialectics. That's literally just not a thing they do at all. Isn't that kind of the point of the postmodern part of it and the viewpoint epistemology or something, like my perspective, my truth.
Yeah, because Egg, I was thinking, just from what I haven't read it in full yet, but I was thinking that kind of ties together. Is this whole
could read I could kind of a skimming of the good parts.
Yeah, that'd be perfect, because I feel like the whole blind faith to Bernie and AOC and all that kind of fits into that. And
just ingesting comedy or political ideology as part of your identity,
right?
I'm someone who finds Hannah Gadsby funny. I'm someone who goes to the farmer's market, like that. You know what I mean?
Right. You're a burner, and you could never go against Bernie, because then they'd be betraying your identity or whatever.
Right. He's not part of the consumptive package.
Right.
Did I talk about that now, or did somebody, Slav, you wanted to?
Slav, I think he took off to the bathroom or something.
Oh no, I'm back. I'm back, babies. I'm back. I'm more neocon than ever.
All right, let me grab a beer. I'll be right back. Hold up.
All right.
Fucking degenerate.
But yeah, no, I think that desire to fracture self-identify or is this a natural human thing? I think evolutionarily, it had to kind of come about. People had to be able to get that kind of tribal mentality of understanding yes, I'm different than these than these Neanderthals, when it was when that was kind of the struggle. And I think that that's kind of part of an evolutionary theory. Obviously people have to have some sort of way of saying this is the other and this is the self in order to justify the inequality or more ugly things that happen when it comes down to competition over material resource. And I think that we've reached a point where that's less of a necessity, but that's still kind of hanging on in the human psyche. And I think that projects like the left, these ideas of emancipation versus material liberation, these ideological projects that focus on identity, is just trying to, it's resurfacing that already dying off trend, or maybe not even dying off, but less necessary now. And it's trying to resurface it and utilize it in a politically useful way. And it's just that's not politically useful for building power. And for me, that's something I see as one of the main problems with the left is identity crisis of rather than realizing that okay, as humans and as creatures that are dependent on material resources and their scarcity, obviously, we always are going to have some sort of us and them, rather than trying to just do the logical us and them of the people that have and the people that have nots. It's just people trying to say, well, what's the us and them of us? What's my identity within this left project? Am I a Marxist? Am I a Trotskyist? Am I a fucking this? Am I a that? Am I a Maoist? Am I anarchist? Am I ANCOM? Bullshit that doesn't even fucking matter. And they don't even know what it means, and it doesn't mean anything anymore. And it's Bernie brought that into the real mainstream with the socialism, democratic socialism, and now that's another one of the terms and another signifier and identifier that's just losing all of its meaning.
Yeah, a lot of libs claiming socialism, but
There's a really interesting argument to be made against. It's kind of interesting that it's very useful that now people relate. Well, I think, I don't know if we talked about AOC yet, but AOC is extremely useful to the ruling class because now your average person associates AOC with socialism.
Yep.
And socialism now is totally detached from political economy and from the economic imperatives, right? And it's just totally it's like weak rad lib stuff. Like it's just purely cultural. So like when your average person thinks about socialism, you know, they're going to think about like AOC type socialism, which is like telling your you know, your truck driver uncle at Thanksgiving that he's racist. You know, it's like that isn't socialism, but it's like very useful for people to think that's what it is, because then they'll never need to actually discover what that is, or what communism is, or what anarchism actually is.
Right.
So it'd be very useful if we have a left candidate in the future who claims they're a communist when really they're like a left moderate or something like that. Would be
Absolutely.
probably going to happen. That would be
very
CRK type prediction. CRK, you can steal that prediction if you want.
Yeah, I'll steal that one. No,
But that's something that Bernie always had me like up in arms. Like I was always kind of had my own contradictions on how I felt about Bernie, because like I had a huge, like I couldn't decide if I thought it was good he was bringing the word socialism into a more palatable context to get people more familiar with it and not think of it as some boogeyman. But at the very same fucking time, like I saw that it's being watered down and it's being like to obfuscate what the actual meaning of like class conflict and like actual Marxist thinking is. And it's just instead now this like signifier for like, well, actually I'm the best type of liberal that you can be because I like believe in equality for all, because socialism.
Yeah, there's a really good argument between Paul Krugman and Richard Wolff about how socialism should be like how socialism should be I guess promulgated to the mainstream. And it's funny because I really agreed with Richard Wolff, because he was initially I agreed with Richard Wolff because he was like, you know, socialism isn't something people should be scared of. It should be something that's celebrated. And then Paul Krugman was like, well, if like, you know, you brand yourself as a socialist, but you know, people are going to be scared of that, but you can like pass through socialist things and just not call it socialism. And I was like, Paul Krugman's such a pussy, because like he is. But then I was like, well, is it worse like if you have kind of like what you were saying, like, is it worse if socialism is like brought into the mainstream, but it's actually stands in for like left centricism, you know? So I don't really know if there's a good answer to that.
Oh, is it just like as in like selling it in a more centrist way? Like
yeah. It's like
yeah.
Or just obfuscating it, like to where like when you have a real actual socialist come around, it's like, yeah, I'm talking about socialism. People are like, no, that's not socialism. Like, what, class politics? That's not socialism. Yeah. I thought socialism was like what AOC is doing and like what Bernie was talking about.
This is what I've been saying. Like AOC and the left in general, they've turned any economic left socialist agenda into culture war. Now this is why I say the left is bankrupt and there's no fixing them. Just like the Dems and the DNC, there's no fixing them. Is everybody has consensually agreed that leftism means left id pole. That's what that really means. And the measure of how left you are is how left id pole you are. Everybody agrees on that. The left agrees on that. The right frames it that way. Centrists think that. Everybody does. So that means they're dead. That means there's nothing to be built there. That means they're hopeless. You know what I mean? It's over. You know what I mean? And this is the thing, like, this is something that I only realized recently was like all those Democrats on stage with Bernie, and they're saying, I'm for Medicare for all. Pete Buttigieg, Kamala Harris, they're all raising their hand. They're all for Medicare for all. And then 6 months later, 10 months later, they're like, you know, oh, well, you know, in a private meeting with the donors, they're saying, well, look, I'm not really for that. You know what I'll keep it real. I'm with you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm for the public option or some bullshit. Right. I thought it was just like libs in my office were just like, oh, well, you know, well, why is Bernie even running? Because these guys are for the same thing. So what's the point?
Oh, my God. I hate that.
Yep. Libs are telling me that shit too, man.
Yeah. And none of them bat an eye when they change opinions 10 months later and they're saying a completely opposite thing 10 months later. None of them bat an eye about that.
Because they already have health insurance.
Right, exactly. They don't care either way. Exactly. But the bigger, sinister thing that I didn't realize until recently was that was very deliberate and very coordinated and very planned, is to dilute and to make Medicare for all an already very popular policy agenda into some shit that nobody trusts. Nobody knows what it means. Nobody knows if it's a public option or not. Right. The whole fact that it's called Medicare for all was a branding thing, right? To associate it with Medicare, it's single payer, however you want to call it. It's a branding thing. And the brand got diluted even more by these neolibs. So
remember Pete Buttigieg, Medicare for all who want it.
Exactly.
There were all of these
Exactly.
renames.
Exactly.
And now Biden's saying healthcare is a human right. Like, it's crazy to me. It's like Biden's taking the same talking points while, like, in practice doing the exact opposite of what that means. Like, yeah, healthcare is a human right, but, like, actually you should buy it from these insurance companies that are going to price gouge you. Like, what?
There's a human right that you can pay for. It's like, it doesn't mean anything.
Right. And I thought, Bernie's he's serious about it. These guys aren't. But if you really think about it, he's just kind of melded into the DNC blob. He's one of them. He doesn't deviate from them on anything. And
he's just a progressive Democrat, like a quote progressive Democrat. Like, he's not socialist by any means. Like, I don't even at no point in time was he talking about like worker-owned businesses and seizing the means of production and like elimination of private property or anything. Like, he said Medicare for all and was like, word, I'm a socialist. Like, that's not what it is.
And AOC endorsing him and him passing the torch to her is all part of that. They are diluting the sense of what it means to actually care about these things, to want economic change and equality for people. That whole notion is being diluted and it's becoming a bunch of nothing. It's becoming DNC-ified. And that's what's going on.
They're as far left as can be safe, essentially, for capital, right?
Exactly.
It's kind of like what Chomsky, that's what Chomsky was saying about, like, like the left-leaning journalists at like the Atlantic or the New Republic or whatever, like, it's actually important that society thinks that Bernie and AOC are socialist, communist, whatever, because they're not really far left at all. But if people think they are, then to go further would be to just be speaking fucking parcel tongue, right? Like, nobody would even know.
Yeah, it'd be like heresy to go further too. Yeah, it's like, oh, that's outside of the norm. That's not actually the far left. Like, you're post left actually now. If you're talking about class fucking politics.
Yeah, people would look at you like they wouldn't be able to group you, right? Like, I feel like your average person, when people talk to me about politics, they're like, wait, are you conservative or you sound like a libertarian?
Yep.
I'm like, you don't know what to do with these arguments because when he talks about them, like, it's deliberate. It has to be.
And you also, like, those things, those labels mean completely different things to every single fucking person. So it's like, are you a conservative? It's like, I don't know. What do you think conservative is? Like,
exactly.
What the fuck do you mean? Like, you can't even get on the same page with people on something like that anymore.
Exactly.
I remember talking to someone about taxes, and I had a big because the military budget and this and that, and it was like, oh, you don't want to be taxed? You sound like a libertarian. And I was like, I'm okay with being taxed. I just like is it not normal to be skeptical of what happens to your tax dollars?
Yes.
It's totally absurd.
Yes, and this is why capital owning government is a power dynamic that is not widely known for some reason. I don't know why. It should be widely known. And that when you get to the right wing skepticism of government or cynicism or libertarianism, like, all that becomes very understandable when capital owns government. If you know that that's the power dynamic, it makes perfect sense to you. All their arguments, the Tea Party, it makes perfect sense. But if you if you don't understand that and you think government is the one who pulls the strings on capital, then you're gonna have this argument of like, no, government good, I'm a lib, government good, or government bad. You're gonna fall into that stupid ass binary unless you understand how it really who's holding power over who. Yeah, exactly.
Nobody understands that because like people either believe government's like a check on capital or that it just again, like there's just a fundamental misunderstanding that will kind of color all your other experiences, right? You have to sort of see knowledge, you sort of have to see the accumulation of knowledge like a skyscraper, right? If the foundation is built on shit, you can have a whole skyscraper built on shit, It's like the whole thing's gonna be shit. And
exactly.
And but it's once it's built, right, it's so high that you don't want to push it down. So what's the point of trying to understand what you believe, right?
Yeah, exactly. I
don't want to do that.
And what do you make of what do you make of this whole thing of Bernie saying that if Trump, if he loses and doesn't accept the election results, he's saying essentially what all the Dems are saying, we're going to have to remove him. That just everything Bernie said in the last couple of months is, he's not obviously controlling his Twitter. Like whoever handles
he's towing the line.
He's towing exactly.
Yeah, I think I tweeted the other day. I was kind of drunk and I was just like, Bernie's just gonna tell us to vote for corporate Democrats until he dies. Like,
yep.
that's just what he's gonna do, because you know, I don't know if there's metaphorical gun to his head telling him to do this stuff, or like, you know, part of me thinks that Bernie knew that he would just get turned into Ralph Nader if he didn't become Bernie Sanders. You know what I mean? Like, part of me thinks, you know, just listening to him, there's a really good video where he speaks to, you know, kids in a high school in like 1993, and I'm like, wow, he does sound like Ralph Nader, but like he knows that he's not going to be able to have a voice unless he's part of the Democratic Party. But what comes with that is that you're part of the fucking Democratic Party.
Right.
And your voice is neutered to fit their specific talking points.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, yeah. Wait, CRK, what do I think of him? With like the coup. What, I don't even know what he's been saying about that. Fill me in, Reese, real quick.
So I actually just pulled the article up.
Oh, cool.
He was saying it's not just idle speculation. Trump was saying the only way he could lose this election is if it's a rigged election, blah, 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 blah. Even though every national poll practically has him has him behind Biden, which is bullshit and cuck stuff. Yeah. But he's like, this is not just a constitutional crisis. It's a threat to everything he stands for. We need to prepare ourselves for the reality that he might not leave office if he's voted out, blah, 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 blah.
Bill Maher shit from a couple of
years. He's like,
oh my God. Yeah. So I don't really know. Like, I guess, I mean, Bernie sort of has to.
We don't have to talk about that specific thing, because I mean, I could go on about how that fits into the coup thing I've been talking about. But aside from that, just I think like the whole loyalty, the blind loyalty people have to Bernie. Like I've been saying, like Trump is better than Bernie at this point, because if Bernie's just towing the line and he's just completely a DNC lib, I mean, then Trump is better, because Trump is obviously better than the DNC, better than the libs.
You know, it's funny. It's like intellectual property, right? It's like entertainment media. Like we were talking, you know, what it's like being a fan of a politician, how deranged that is. Like, think about it. It's like it's assembling the Avengers, right? Like the DNC is the Avengers, and like Bernie. Well, you know, we supported him because, like, you know, he was representing some good shit, but not because we loved him as Uncle Bernie or something like that, as Cardi B would say. But like, like I don't love the personality. He's not a consumer choice I make. I mean that's unavoidable. He is on a certain level, but like at least being able to have that self-awareness to be like, wow, I'm not in this for a personality cult, right? But
like,
but
what
if
you can, sir.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a team of rivals. It's a team of rivals, and Bernie's one of the rivals.
But think about like if you're in the game of politics and everything, like no, like those people that you get onto, like the personality cult buy-in people, that's like your fan base that you can bring to the party, to the Avengers. Right, like they're Captain America fans, and you know those asses are going to be in that seat right next to the Thor fans.
Exactly. This is it's a really good metaphor. I mean, it's a lib metaphor, but it's very fucking good. It's
you've seen that
because everything's fucking flattening out and becoming the fucking same at this point.
Exactly.
The squad just like is the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like fuck all this shit. This sucks. I guarantee there's fucking AOC Funko Pops.
Absolutely.
MSNBC actually made like that commercial, or I don't know if it was MSNBC or like CBS or ABC, or someone made a fucking commercial where they photoshopped faces of the DNC, various members of the squad and the DNC and Biden onto the actual Avengers in game, like in a scene. And it was like on actual national TV. Like this shit was like in the psyche, like it's real. Like y'all are talking about now as like it's a metaphor. It's not a metaphor. It's literal and real, like media.
Just fucking make it end. Just fucking make it end.
Yeah, kill me, please kill me.
Yeah, these are just celebrity figures now. I mean, our culture is essentially just one big reality TV show. It's like when AOC went on like like RuPaul drag show or something like that. I was just like, I was like, this is like an elected official. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Like why is this okay with people? Like it's not like you're someone who was formerly. I was just like, why are you on this TV show? It's so bizarre. It almost makes sense. I feel like I feel like this past year, all I've read is just like fucking Baudrillard and stuff, and it's just like it just prepares you for just this totally absurd media world detached from any sort of reality. I feel like we're just like, we're not even in the hyper real. We're just like in the hyper real squared. Like, yeah, like is a simulation of like 7 different simulations of past. It's like, I don't even know what to do with it.
No. And you know, the thing that, yeah.
Wow.
You know, we're gonna start narrating the
memes
chat
in the chat. Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. No, the thing. Also, just really fast for the folks at home. I called that there was an AOC Funko Pop doll, and then just took the 2 seconds to Google it. There is 100%. No, that's got to be the episode image, right? That's got to be. I'll do it. No, absolutely.
Yeah, there we go. This one goes out to Drew.
Absolutely.
It looks like that painting where she looks like a bug. That mural that someone did of her, where they made her eyes look like crazy big, like a lizard or something. Slav, you know what I'm talking about. It was like a wall mural, like a street art painting of AOC that went viral, where she looks like a straight up bug or something.
Oh, didn't Drew put that in his header and shit? Like,
yeah. It's what
and you know Drew's sicko ass beat to this shit. You know he beat to this shit.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I love women with big eyes.
It's like, highlighting my favorite features of her.
I love one of the replies on that picture. It was like why does it look like that? Oh my god! And then someone's
like, it's just art.
Well, you don't know exactly. And then someone's like, oh yeah, it's exactly.
Oh my god! No, the thing I'm thinking about is like, you know, it's just mind-boggling to me how much there's so much blind loyalty to AOC, to Bernie, and you know how they used to say, the libs used to say, oh, you know, Bernie's a cult of personality, his fans are a cult of personality, and you know, I was like, nah, we like his policies, and then as he lost, and I realized these people clung on to him, I'm like, oh shit, like they didn't care about his policy, they didn't care that he's backpedaling on every policy. They are a cult of, the libs were right. It's cult of personality.
What's crazy to me is that cult of personality is such a lib thing, but the libs recognize it and they use it. They weaponize it against us. Like they weaponize it against Bernie, people calling it a cult of personality, like you're talking about. And now that Bernie's dropped out, and like me and people who aren't going to vote for Biden are like, yeah, no, I'm not going to vote for Biden. People will be like, yeah, but didn't you know that Bernie said you should vote for Biden?
Right.
Yeah, I don't give a fuck.
Right.
Yeah. But some people on the left will be like, well, Bernie says it's okay, so I'll do it. Some rose emojis, I'm sure, are secretly, whatever the fuck they say on the timeline, I'll tell you right now, they're secretly voting Biden. They're cucks. They're pussies.
Dude, I mean, I don't know. It's like, that's sicko shit, but also like, dude, mad respect to the brand work. Right, like you got him. You got him. Like they are with you. He's saying all the retarded shit now, and it's just like not even batting an eye.
Yeah. It's just such blind loyalty to them and to AOC. And the thing that always comes to my mind is like, you know, they work for you, right? Your tax dollars pay their salary. They work for you, not the other way around. Why are you blindly loyal to them? And, you know, making excuses for them like they're your friend. Like they always do the Hillary's mother shit. Hillary is the light shit. The libs do that. And the left would always make fun of it. But the left does the same. I don't understand it. It's like they work for you. They're only as good as what they do for you. They're not, you don't make excuses for them and be like, oh, well, you know, she's trying her best. She's under a lot of pressure. What the fuck are you talking about? Are you stupid? Are you a fucking cuck moron? Like, what is wrong with you? Like,
but they won't make those excuses for like the McDonald's cashier who like gave them their coffee a couple minutes too late.
No, of course not. But it is just mind-boggling to me. Like,
no, that person probably voted for Trump. Fuck that person.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. They said the N-word on Twitter 15 years ago when they were 12. Yeah.
Right. They did a no growth. They went and got fucking brunch and didn't raise their fist. So
right. The left one specifically. Yep.
Just hit them with a brick.
You don't qualify for unemployment now, so that's your past lives fault. Crazy shit.
No, yeah, it's just yeah. I just don't understand it. I just on a base level, I know people say like, yo, we're a feudal society and we're just like serfs, just like these celebrities. We're just blindly loyal to them, and like I get that, but at a base level, I do not understand it. I don't understand it.
Like people have a misunderstanding of like how power works and like how ideas come to be and like how they change the course of history, like on their own through like people just gradually, doing different material shit and changing the material circumstances around them. And people like get this like great man of history syndrome where like they think like, oh, like Lenin is the reason why communism happened, or like anything like that, and it's the same kind of thing that goes even though Bernie didn't really do shit, right? But like he had the potential to be. He's a revolutionary figure. It's like some type of just like people don't understand that actually these things are coming from the masses, just wanting them and needing them in like material circumstances. Necessitating these changes and these revolutions. They see one person's be the figurehead of it and they think that it sprouted directly from their mind. It's like that's just not how reality works. That's not how history works. But people don't understand that, especially not these libs that can't think about contradictions, because they can only think in one way. Oh, he must be the lifeblood of this idea. He must have never done anything counter-revolutionary or wrong in his time. Like, because they can't see both sides of that.
Yep.
Now you're implementing dialectical materialism, which no one understands. So, I mean, that's sort of why, right? Like, if I love the phrase. I don't know where the fuck it came from. It's like, if he didn't exist, right? Like the revolutionary potential would have been harnessed by someone else, So
right, exactly.
No, the problem is that people, they see sort of history in these figures, and there's also this bizarre tendency that a lot of people have to think that we are A, post-history, and B, post-violence as a society. I think a lot of that had to do with the fact of like the drone, like drone technology, right? Like, like violence, you don't really see it because American soldiers don't get hurt anymore, right? So like you don't see violence.
Visual violence now.
Yeah, you know, it's not. Yeah, it's violence in a different way, right? It's like total atomized exploitation. It's 25% of people 18 to 44 wanting to have committed suicide in the past 2 months, right? It's like it's this spiritual death that post God society sort of can't really understand. It's like, wow, everything's so perfectly optimized. Why are we so fucking unhappy? It's like, well, because you love your fucking boss and like you don't understand that's the biggest contradiction in your life, but like you haven't been educated in the right way. You can't. It's just, I don't know. I mean, like
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm flustered. I'm flummoxed.
I mean, the media was failing, and even now in the Trump bubble, they're like laying people off. And so like the earlier when I was saying like, oh man, like fucking media sucks, culture sucks now, right? like everything for more than the last 4 years, but especially the last 4 years has been shitty. But there's been like probably like the best story arc being told in any soap opera on television has been politics the last 4 years. I mean, like it is entertainment media. It is. And then, like, I'm like
Trump's a reality host. I mean, exactly.
Right. No. And like there's the kind of like, facetious way of saying that, like where I'm kind of like speaking in a hyperbolic manner. And then like, there's what I mean, which is pretty fucking literal. Like this shit is fucking entertainment media.
Oh yeah.
And
definitely.
Yeah, I mean, we just frame it differently, and it's the market. The market will conquer all fronts. Right?
It'll sort everything out.
Oh yeah,
exactly. I mean, it's not for us; it's for the machine.
Yeah.
I'll say
let this will hand take the wheel.
This is
I'll say one thing about the great man point that COH was making was like, yeah, for sure. Like the idea that Trump is the reason why there's bigotry now, or or that Obama created cancel culture. I mean, it's always tying these people to the movements that created them. Like they're like these things allow them into power. They're riding the wave. They're not the it's this weird like infantile conception of history where like, oh, this person popped in and changed everything. It's like, no, the conditions were ripe. They just needed anybody to come in and seize the moment. If
Well, it's also
Go
sorry.
ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, it's also just like a fun point because like you're alluding to the fact that like the American population, when they're not like doing like a Maoist cultural revolution, is like also just like deeply reactionary most of the time. And so like the same people that were probably frothing at the mouth for crime bill stuff in the not too distant past, and just generally the kind of people that would think that Pete Buttigieg is a step forward for our political discourse, are now going around acting like HR professionals to everyone in their neighborhood. And,
That's depressing.
It's fucking hilarious, man. It's fucking hilarious, and I really do think like what I mean, like just like yes, the post God post, not to go into the whole like
say the word. Say the word.
I don't know what word I'm supposed to say.
Postmodern.
Oh shit. Well, okay. Yeah. Included but not limited to, right? So like it, like, not to say a different word, not to say like the kind of cliche of like wokeness is a religion, but like again, like no, like what is the ethical framework of this, right? Like I don't know. It occurs to me. I was watching something recently that was like just kind of discussing like the philosophy of Jordan Peterson, and like someone kind of just like making the point that like this is actually like kind of like the furthest left that Protestant liberalism can get. And like people just like brushed Jordan Peterson off as like a far right lunatic when like realistically he's just like a classical liberal, just like basic bitch kind of dummy. Right. But like no, like his debate with Zizek, like in like maybe some like philosophical ways, Zizek is like more shockingly right wing than Jordan Peterson is. Jordan Peterson is again, it's just like as far left as Protestant liberalism is gonna get. That's nothing crazy. It's just the fact that like he is someone whose worldview is not with a complete absence of an ethical framework. And like I'm a progressive enough guy to not necessarily, and I wasn't raised religious. I'm like a progressive enough guy to say that like you don't necessarily need to get that ethical framework from like a Judeo-Christian belief or something like that. Not necessarily. I think history probably isn't on my side there, but like if you're rejecting previously standing ethical systems, you should probably have something to fucking replace it with.
Yes. For real.
and that's a pretty fucking big detail. That's probably the biggest fucking detail I can emphasize is like, no, challenge this stuff. Like, let's be, forward thinking, but like, let's actually like not sell our car if like we need to get to work tomorrow. Well, yeah, that's a horrible metaphor.
Well, yeah, no. That's the abolish the police thing. Is like abolish the police and replace it with what?
No, exactly.
What are you talking about? Like, okay, I'm down. I don't like the police. I don't like the way the thing is operated. I don't like any of that. But what are you replacing it with? The crime is just going to go up. Like you need an answer for that, and they don't have an answer for that. The anarchists don't have an answer for anything, and capital is just going to fill the void. It's funny because people on like the dissident right or just like kind of weird third positions I see enacting the good parts of Marxism like more than like in just doing material analysis than I actually see like fucking liberals that are just like have all these fucking peer reviewed articles in their academic pieces about like gay, queer, environmental Marxism, just like weird shit where it's been refracted 8 times through mirrors or something. It just doesn't even make sense anymore. Like, I don't know. I mean, now I'm going down kind of a rabbit hole here, but like
what I was saying earlier about like how there's just no material basis anymore. Like there's because of the fact that it's such an idealistic and ideological program, there is no material groundwork. There's no material benchmark. There's no program for okay, abolish the police, then what? Okay, yeah, we have out like the family has been eroded through capitalism, and like, you know, we have gotten to the point where like we need to transcend the family. But like, how do we do that? It's not about just, you know, abolish the family and like, you know, desecrate the family, whatever the fuck. It's provide a better understanding of collectivity going forward. So how do we do that? And that's the issue. Like, the left is really good at like bringing up these ideological fucking qualms and worries, but never providing any fucking path, program, or groundwork for how the fuck are we going to materially change and solve this. Like you can say all that you want, like, yeah, we should abolish the police. I hate the cops too. I've been arrested several times. I've been beat up by pigs. Like, I hate the cops, but like, what the fuck are we going to do? Because we can't just have no cops at all. Like, where is your groundwork? What's your fucking plan? Okay, yeah, I don't think that like the bourgeois idea of a family is what we should be like banking on. But at the same time, I don't want my daughters to sell themselves into sex work, and like, I don't want to live in a polyamorous bubble. Like, what the fuck are we going to do? And like, why is there no one working on actually providing this fucking groundwork, a program, anything? There's no one with any, like, you can come up with all these ideas all the time about like, we need to abolish the state. We need to abolish. How the fuck are we going to do it? And what the fuck are we going to do instead? Me. Then maybe I'm down. Like, because I'm down ideologically. I just don't know what materially your plan is.
Like, it's so far from a general strike. We're so far from that. And like that's what they precipitate, like seizing the state. But yeah, like, no, I agree with everything you're saying. I think these are just nice things we can, again, like going back to what we talked about earlier, like, you know, ACAB kind of replaced abolish ICE, right? In terms of things you can put in your profile.
And like, none of us are saying it.
Yeah, all the libs freak out about his breaking of decorum or whatever, but people relate to that shit. They relate to the fact that he's one of the first presidents that like people could laugh with, because they relate to the whole sentiment of like, yo, these people are fucking corrupt crooks or whatever, and he just say it. He'll just say it.
About the army today when he was like, do you think people in the military like me? I can say they all like me. Like, the people high up in the Pentagon definitely don't like me just because they want to just keep having wars and bombs and making their planes. Like, bro, that's so based. Like, coming from a president, I don't give a fuck if he's gonna do anything about it or not. At least someone's saying it, man.
Yes, like, bro, that's the president sounding like Noam fucking Chomsky. Like, that rules.
Yes,
that was insane. I was like,
and like, if I say that's based, people are gonna be like, "Oh, you're just like a reactionary right-wing Trumper now." It's like, no, you can admit that that's based. Like, admit that's good. Like,
dude, the guy turning his girlfriend blue like a Smurf is funny.
But yeah, we should wrap this one up. But yo, Edgar, yo, thank you, man. Much appreciated, man. Honestly, because like, we gave you 24 hours heads up, and you came on. Like, honestly, man, I really appreciate it. It was. I've been meaning to have you on. I've been asking you like mad times, and like, this is the one that ended up happening. But
no, I felt bad. I felt bad rejecting. I just what I do with my life is like, I'm a teacher, so I put off all my work until like time, and I'm like, oh shit, if I do this at night, I'm not going to do my work till 4 a.m. In my head, I was like, oh no, like I push everything off, but I wanted to come on, so thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, definitely, it's great. You're actually one of the few accounts I actually like really respect on left Twitter, so or have in this realm.
Absolutely.
So yeah, all you guys are great accounts, and you're nice people.
Yeah, thanks, brother. It's good talking to you.
Hey, man,
yeah, for sure.
We'll have you back on at some point in time, and yeah, you came through super clutch. This was tight. But yeah, thanks, man. Thanks again, and yeah, we'll catch you guys next week.
Of course, I'm excited to listen to myself. It's probably gonna be weird.
Oh, it'll be a nightmare.
Luckily, you don't have a shitty voice. No offense to anybody else who has a shitty voice, but like
Drew.
Drew is his trans voice.
Fucking obvious MTF or FTM or whatever.
I'd say obvious MTF, but he's just like an NTM for
at that point, you can't even tell MTF, FTM. You can't even tell at that point. It's
either way.
Hey guys.
All right.
Take care, man.
All right. Peace, man. Peace, guys.